It's time to look at Lapras VMax. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be taking a look at our Lapras VMax deck, which we featured in a game against Mewtwo, I think it was yesterday. Firstly, before we get into the list that Blake has put together, I'd just like to remind people that you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the Sableyes_YT, and don't forget to subscribe. About 60% of the people who watch these videos don't subscribe. It means nothing to you, but it means everything to me, so please click that button if you feel comfortable. Anyway, let's go to the list and have a chat with Blake. And joining me now is the builder of the deck himself, Blake Whiteman. You've put together Lapras for us to take a look at. How's it going?
I'm doing good, thanks, Mitch.
That is good, mate. Well, it's your list. I'll let you take over this section of the video. Run us through the list and how it works.
Yep, so we'll start off with the Pokemon. This is a Lapras Frosmoth list. Frosmoth, pronounce my S's. With support of Silvally for some draw support. So we'll start off with the big guy, the head honcho. We have 3 copies of Lapras V. Lapras V has 2 very serviceable attacks. Its first attack allows you to attach a water energy from your hand to Lapras V, and then you may switch it to your bench, which is very helpful at the early points of the game. If you're going second, it allows you to get 2 quick energy onto a Lapras, and then pivot into a Lily's Pokédoll to have it free to sack going into your opponent's next turn, which is very helpful as this deck can be a bit slow to set up at points. And its second attack for 3 water and a colorless, it does 210 and grabs 2 of the water energy back into your hand. And of course, when you're using Frosmoth, you can accelerate those water from hand, so it's not too much of a detriment if you're all set up properly. So it makes for a good 2-prize attacker if you don't want to go all in with the 3-prize VMax. And then we play 2 copies of the Lapras VMax. 2 copies is just enough. You don't always go into the VMax, only when you need to take those really big one-shots over 210 do you really need to go into it. It gets to those big numbers really quickly. Has 320 HP, so it's a bulky boy. With base 90 damage of the 3 colorless G-Max pump, does plus 30 for each water attached to this Pokemon. So with just the 3 base energy to attack, it's doing 180, and then plus 30 for each extra one. So you can get up to 240 and 270, and even 300 for the big Pokemon to take easy knockouts on tag team Pokemon. And in order to get those energy onto our Pokemon, we have a 3/3 Frosmoth with 3 Snoms. The Snom really doesn't do anything. If you need to attack with it, something's gone horribly wrong. Same for the Frosmoth, 2 energy for 30 damage, but what we're really here for is the ability, which allows us as many times as we like during our turn, we can attach a water energy from our hand to one of our bench water-type Pokemon. So it's a bit limiting on this particular Rain Dance Pokemon to have a specific to waters and on the bench, but it is a very powerful ability, and for once it's on a stage 1, so can't complain too much. And it's pretty easy with the new Evo instance to get it into play as well. The only downside I would say to this Pokemon is that it's got 2 retreat. It's only got 90 HP as well, so it goes down to pretty much anything if they can bring it into the active. And then we have 1 Ditto Prism, a type Null, and then 2 Silvally GX. Silvally GX with Rain Dance is really good at replenishing your hand alongside your other supporters. It can allow you to dig really deep and get a lot of energy onto a Lapras out of nowhere. As Mitch could probably tell you, some ridiculous stuff can happen with Lapras VMax, with Silvally drawing a lot of cards, especially if you manage to get both of your Silvallis up into play. You can draw an absurd amount of cards and pull off some crazy combos. To round out the list, rather than use a whole bunch of cards to try and get the correct Pokemon in and out of the active, I've elected to use a Dawnwing's Necrozma GX with its Invasion ability. You can get into the active, and with the new Balloon tool card, I think it's Balloon or Red Balloon, something like that, you can free retreat back into any Pokemon you like. So if you need to put more energy on a Lapras or a Lapras VMax, you can Invasion, attach all the water you want, then retreat back into it, happy as you like. So really useful for manipulating your energy attachments. Lastly, as a tech attacker, we have Palkia GX. It's the only GX attack we can actually use in the deck reliably. So Valley, you can't accelerate to, so you're really going to waste 2 manual attachments to use White Knight GX, which is specific to Ultra Beast. So Zero Vanish GX in some matchups will be our go-to, but other times you won't even need this GX attack. It's not really there for the damage, but against some of our more difficult matchups like Pikarom, because Lapras VMax and V are weak to Lightning, Zero Vanish will get rid of all of their energy and set them back to square one with no Thunder Mountain and no Tapu Koko Prism Star, which is crippling for the deck. So can help out with those really tough matchups. And also it's really good it's just good against most of the format, actually. It's good against Mew3 and against ADP Zacian as well, which are probably the 3 best decks I've seen out of the format so far. So definitely worth an inclusion.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty solid Pokemon line. Obviously, the merits of that Palkia are a bit debatable, but it's, like you said, the only GX attack that is worth using. Obviously, Lapras VMax is going to be the main attacker for you. Moving on to your trainer lineup, Blake.
Yeah, so nothing too special about the trainer line. We have 4 of the brand new Professor's Research. Discarding your hand and drawing 7 has always been an exceptional effect. And as far as I know, as long as it's been in the format, it's been running a 4 of in like basically every deck outside of some very strange ones, because it's just such a powerful effect. If you need to find a card, this is your best chance at finding it. And a lot of our resources that we'll probably throw away in our deck are recoverable, like our water energies and our Pokemon line. So we're not too fussed, but if we ever want to hold on to our resources and draw some cards, we play 3 copies of Marnie as well. Another very strong supporter coming out of the Sword and Shield base set. I really underrated this card at first. I thought it was the same text as Judge, where you shuffled, but because of the way you use it, you actually put your cards from your hand on the bottom of the deck, and same for your opponent. There's actually no way you draw into the cards that you get rid of. So it's basically draw 5 cards for you and draw 4 for your opponent, which is incredibly strong, because when you're missing combo pieces, you really don't want to draw into the same useless cards that you had in your hand before, and Marnie allows you to ignore that downside to cards like Cynthia. Also, we play a copy of Mallard Lana. Lapras VMax is a big Pokemon, as I stated earlier. It's not very likely that your opponent's going to one-shot it unless you're playing against Pikarom. So we can use Mallard Lana to heal that. And sometimes just to switch if we don't have Dawnwing's Necrozma out into the field just yet. And lastly, this wasn't a card that was originally in the list when I played my game with Mitch, but we have since included a copy of Lady to search water energies out of the deck. Because we previously didn't have a way to do that. Energy Spinner is only good when you're going second, and this deck needs a lot of energy to get going. So Lady is just a card to do that. We elected to cut the Cynthia from the list and add a Marnie in its place. And another card which will come to me as we go through the list in place of the Lady. Yeah.
That's alright.
Actually, it was one of the Cynthia and Caitlins. The list was previously playing 2 Cynthia and Caitlin, but it wasn't really performing. There's no other tag team Pokemon in the list, just the tag team supporters, so it wasn't really doing too well. Without the tag core engine, Cynthia and Caitlin really underperforms, and there's not too many unique supporters you want to get back other than Mallard Lana. So it just really wasn't pulling its weight. So we decided to replace it. One of the 2 were replaced with a Lady, and the other was replaced with another energy retrieval, which we'll go through in just a second.
No worries. I think that Lady is a really good inclusion as well. Like you mentioned, being able to search out energy with a supporter is good, and it means that you're going to be able to get 4 energy, so that's how much damage? Like 120, 150, just like that?
Yeah, 120. Yeah, so it's basically just add 120 damage if you're set up, basically.
Yeah, which seems pretty strong.
That's a good card. I mean, people play Electropower. I'm sure if they had a card that said play for Electropower tied to a supporter, they'd probably do that if they were playing Pikarom.
Yep.
So I've elected to do the same. So we'll move on now to our item cards. if you've been paying attention to the set whatsoever, you know that Quick Ball's a card. So it's a 4 of in this deck because the card is exceptionally good. It gets all those cards we've been desperately trying to get access to for the longest time since rotation and took Ultra Ball away from us and Nest Ball. So now we can get those basic non-GX Pokemon again. Thank the Lord. And also it's a good way to search out the new Pokemon V that we have gotten to our collection as well. So 4 copies because we need to set up there's going to be 4 copies in every list, so
yeah,
there's really no need to explain.
I should set up a little, like a sound clip that just goes, this deck has 4 copies of Quick Ball in it.
Yeah, it's going to be necessary. It's going to be played in every deck profile. Also a card that's going to show up in a lot of deck profiles. I have 3 copies of Evo Incense. This just allows you to get an evolution piece out of your deck and put it into your hand. It grabs the VMax, it grabs the Silvally GX, and it grabs your Frosmoths. So, yeah, it's an exceptional card. Not quite enough to get a 4 count because we play a high enough count of the other Pokemon that we can draw into them a lot of the time. We just need 1 here and there to complete what we're missing from our setup, which is usually just 1 Frosmoth or 1 Silvally. But it can get a VMAX in a pinch. Next, we have 3 copies of Lily's Pokédoll. Like I mentioned earlier, you will often use Lapras's first attack to accelerate extra energy and pivot into this Pokédoll. It's a great first turn play if you're going second, or even if you're struggling on your second turn going first. It's always there to buy time for you if you're struggling, and it forces in a deck where all of your Pokemon, apart from Dawnwings and Necrozma and Palkia GX, aren't accessible with Great Catcher. If your opponent's not playing Custom Catcher, they don't have a guaranteed Gust effect on any of your bench-setting Pokemon. So a lot of the time, Lily's Pokédoll is going to buy you turns just for free. So it's a really solid card in this list especially. And next we have 3 copies of Energy Retrieval. It was previously 2 when I played my set with Mitch, but as I played more and more of the list, I found that I was needing more and more retrievals, so we decided to bump it up to 3. Since I've been testing with this new list, the performance has been far greater, so definitely a great addition to the list, and I would recommend you play the same count, if not more. I would love to have a 4th retrieval, just couldn't manage to find a space to fit it in at this very moment. But moving on, we have our Gust effects in the deck. We have 2 copies of regular Pokemon Catcher and a copy of Great Catcher. As I mentioned earlier, Great Catcher used to be the best Gust in the format, but now that we have Pokemon V, it's not exclusive anymore. So we need to play a way to Gust Pokemon V as well. And for us, that goes to Pokemon Catcher on a coin flip. It might not be the best option, but it's all we've got. So I'll rather risk the coin flip to get a game-winning attack rather than just have to hit into some one-prize attacker that I couldn't get around. So those are our catcher effects. Moving on, we have our stadiums. We have 2 copies of Viridian Forest. Energy is the name of the game in this deck. Once you're set up, all you're going to need for the rest of the game is to keep drawing energy cards and attaching them to your Labrases. And Viridian Forest allows us to do that. So it's the obvious stadium of choice because there's no better one for specific water type decks at this point. And then we have 2 copies of the Balloon. Allows us to rush retreat for free with our Dawnwings and Necrozma. And all of our bench sitters have 2 retreat or less, so it gives free retreat to them as well. If your opponent has, say, an Absol that disrupts your Dawnwings and Necrozma, it'll allow your Silvally and your Frosmoth to retreat for free. So in those matchups where you know your opponent's playing Absol, that should be where your balloons go to. And lastly, to round out the items, we have a copy of the new Fishing Rod, which is a great new retrieval card that allows you to shuffle in up to 2 Pokemon and up to 2 energy. We highly value energy, so if we can find ways to get them back in the deck, we're going to play it. And sometimes you have to discard VMAXs before you get a chance to evolve into them, so we want to shuffle those back in as quickly as we can so we can access our high damage output. So the 1 copy is enough to do us, and then we also have the obligatory 1 copy of Reset Stamp. to go alongside Armani for hand disruption. And that rounds out the item cards.
It's a pretty obvious strategy that we're going for here. I like the Lady to be able to search out energy. I like the Viridian Forest to be able to find it as well. And then once it's in the bin, we've got those retrievals to get it back in order to power up our VMAX, which is the key to our victory condition. And now we're going to be looking at, what, like 26 water energy, Blake?
Nah, not quite that much, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the best we can do is 12 energy total. We have 11 water energies. That's about as neatly as those can be arranged.
That's alright, you're fine.
Yay, 11. And then we play one copy of Weakness Guard energy to try and smooth out a Pikarom matchup, which is pretty bad. But if you do manage to get your Weakness Guard attached to a VMAX Lapras, they're going to have a very bad time, because doing 320 damage is damn near impossible, especially if they've already spent 2 of their E-powers. Against every other matchup, though, it's pretty much just used for a manual attachment, an extra manual attachment. Other than that, it's pretty much just for the Pikarom matchup, but it does make a big swing in that matchup when you do find it, and it does win you entire games just on its own. So definitely worth the inclusion for probably the deck's worst matchup.
Fair enough. It looks like a real solid list, Blake. Thanks for coming along and sharing that one. Before we head off, are there any changes or comments you'd like to make just before we head into the outro?
Overall, this list has been surprising to me. I obviously I had high hopes for this deck because I like the style of Rain Dance decks. But when I saw that it was weak to lightning, I was sort of doubtful that it would perform, but I was surprised again when we got to testing at how close the sets have been between this list and Pikarom variants that I've played in the past, even in matches where I haven't got the Weak Guard energy, which is surprising again. So I think this deck has potential. It might not be a tier 1 deck, but I'd expect to see a couple floating around at cups and stuff like that. And it could definitely get good results if it has a good run and good matchups.
Well, there you go. And you mentioned the Pikarom matchup. I think we're going to be having a look at that one soon. Thanks very much, Blake, for sharing this list with us.
No worries.
So that's the list. Thanks to Blake again for putting this one up for us. It's a good list. It's good fun to play and fun to play against. And hopefully you liked it. If you do like it, consider subscribing. Click the button that's just about here. Over on this side, there'll be some videos for you to watch, and we've added that way, just here, we've added a little playlist for you as well. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @thesableeyes_YT, and we'll see you all next time for more from the Sableeyes. Bye.